Hey everyone, my name is Minesh and I'm the Psychedelic Scientist. In this video, I'm going to be telling you the latest research on how psychedelics affect the brain. So psychedelics are this fascinating set of compounds that can radically alter our conscious experience. And given this, there's a lot of mysteriousness around them. People are kind of unclear, what exactly are they doing to my brain? Are they harming me? And there's also a lot of stigma attached to them, thinking we might go crazy if we take them. However, in the last decade or so, there's been an explosion of research looking at how they might work in the brain. First, I should say that psychedelics primarily act on the serotonin system in the brain, where serotonin is a neurotransmitter or a brain chemical which modulates a whole variety of functions, including things like digestion, our mood, different aspects of our thinking, and various other processes. And also drugs such as LSD and psilocybin are very similar in their chemical structure to serotonin and essentially act as if there's serotonin at certain receptor sites. And through the serotonin system, the psychedelics can affect the brain in very complex ways. But if we want to summarize this, we can separate three primary ways in which they affect the brain. So first, they make the brain more interconnected. So the brain is this extremely complex organ, the most complex that we know of in the known universe, and is composed of over 100 billion brain cells or neurons, which have as many as 10,000 connections each. In order to manage this extraordinary complexity, scientists often break the brain down into distinct brain regions, each of which share certain properties. And we can understand the brain as a set of brain regions which interact in certain ways. And often there are some regions that interact with others and not others, and they're very selective in how they communicate. But with psychedelics, there's all of a sudden this enhanced connectivity where all sorts of regions which usually don't talk to each other are now sharing information to a greater degree. And as one example, we know from research that under LSD, the parts of our brain associated with processing our visual experience of the external world are now becoming much more interconnected with the rest of the brain, including areas related to memory and various other functions. And scientists have also found a relationship between this increased connectivity and the tendency to have complex imagery. So you see objects or scenes or people with eyes closed or sometimes eyes open at higher doses. So there seems to be a blurring together of distinct functional regions in the brain in the psychedelic state. And two, the brain seems to become more dynamic. What this basically means is that the brain can enter a variety of distinct states that it usually doesn't enter into. One way we could think about this is that in our normal day-to-day functioning, we enter a certain set of states which relate to our particular perspective on the world and the types of thoughts we usually have. And during the psychedelic experience, since the brain is now entering a number of new states, we're able to escape our habitual thought patterns, see things from a new perspective, have thoughts we never had before, and draw connections between new things. So this expansion of the brain states we can enter into leads to a greater expansion in the subjective or thinking or mental states that we can also enter into. And third, psychedelics seem to boost neuroplasticity in the brain. Essentially, we can understand this as the psychedelics can give our brain more resources needed to form new brain connections and get rid of old ones which are no longer serving us. So in addition to allowing us to break out of our habitual thought patterns and see things from a new perspective, they also give us the resources that we can use to encode these new insights in a lasting way. And so to summarize, first, psychedelics can make our brain more interconnected. All of a sudden, brain regions are now talking to each other to a much greater degree. And then two, the brain becomes more dynamic. We enter all sorts of new states, which corresponds to new patterns of thinking and new perspectives and insights, and also gives us resources to use the insights that we learned and encode them in a lasting way to make positive changes in our life. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this general primer on how psychedelics work in the brain. Obviously, it's very complex and there's a lot more detail to go into here, but I think this serves as a solid introduction. So please feel free to give this video a like and check out the description below for some links to some interesting psychedelic research. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for more videos on the latest insights from psychedelic science.